got to get quickly into, you're in Loudoun County now.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, this is an amazing story, reading the details of it, even in these times when we should expect what happened. But basically, there's a parent Facebook group that's private, and they're trying to institute, or they already have instituted, critical race theory into the public schools. And you've got two or three young daughters, right?
2 daughters, yeah.
This is just you being a concerned parent, not Republican Ian Pryor.
Right.
Just like, listen, what am I? And in a few years, I'm going to be. This is maybe why I'm interested, because in a few years, I have to start looking at the public schools. And right now, I'm kind of lucky that my boys are young, but I almost feel like I'm reminded. Remember the Joker, Jack Nicholson? Wait till they get a load of me. Like I could see myself stepping in, just like you, going to the board meetings, writing something in the local paper, and that's what you did. And you get put on a like McCarthyism type list in the county. Among other people.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just to kind of back it up a little bit, I had, I think in the fall, I sort of, after the George Floyd thing happened, right, you had people just going nuts for different reasons, right? And obviously it was national news all the time, different sides, a lot of different contexts that I think people don't necessarily understand, right? They look at the headlines, they don't look at all the videos, they don't look at all they don't understand how police reform works or lawsuits against police departments work. That's something I dealt with when I was at the Department of Justice. But, I started wondering to myself, are they on to something? What is it that we're talking about here? So I went down the rabbit hole, right? I read Robin DiAngelo, White Fragility. I read Ibram Kendi, How to Be an Anti-Racist. I read a book by, former Patriots tight end Ben Watson. And then I also read a bunch of stuff by Martin Luther King. And then as that is all happening, right, Chadwick Boseman dies. Black Panther, right? Love him. Great actor. So I started watching all his movies. And, I watched Jackie Robinson, 42, and I was like, this is such a great story. And, what I came through with this whole like sort of equity, equality thing is a bit of an analogy on Jackie Robinson. So, equity is, or equality is, we're going to give everybody the equal opportunity to succeed, right? Colorblind meritocracy. Whereas equity is, we are going to right-size results so that we have consistency of outcome. So let's take the Jackie Robinson story as an example that I think clarifies the difference between equality and equity. Now, in an equitable system, Branch Rickey would say, look, I just want to integrate Major League Baseball. So I need to find an African-American baseball player to put on the team. Anyone that's pretty decent will do, right? But that's not what he did. He's like, look, I want to help integrate Major League Baseball, but I want to do it in a way where I get the best and the toughest baseball player out there that's also going to help me win the pennant. That's what he wanted to do, and he gets Jackie Robinson. Now, if he had just had somebody that was okay, who knows how that would have worked out. But instead, he gets arguably, the biggest hero in American pro sports to go out there, take all the heat, become the MVP of the league, and eventually lead the Brooklyn Dodgers to a World Series title. And now Jackie Robinson's number is the only one that's retired all across the league. So equity versus equality. Equality, we get Jackie Robinson. Equity, it may have taken years to integrate Major League Baseball. So this is all going through my mind.
That's a really good example. I mean, because you can imagine going the other way and doing some sort of affirmative action into Major League Baseball, and then a lot like the controversy over blacks and failing out of these high level colleges. No one can understand why. It's because the affirmative action policies have ended up hurting these, like the black dropout rate at some of these universities. That didn't do them any good by getting into college, just by giving them an extra tick because of their skin color, and then they end up failing out. And then where are they? But you can imagine the old white bigotry in America, looking at that black players play who just thrown in there for equity's sake. And then did you really help the liberal cause there? Doing it the right way. And I love the equity and equality thing, because a lot of people are not seeing that slippage of language. It's a lot like the Antifa. It's that Orwellian thing. You can guarantee that if liberals are saying anti-fascist, anti-racist, it's the complete opposite of that. And because no one can obfuscate like them. And I think it's a really good mission to start pointing out how often they say equity now instead of equality.
Exactly. And so I started doing a little research on what was going on in the schools. People started sending me some things, and I actually, just for fun, I FOIA'd the contracts they had with what's called the Equity Collaborative out in California, and I found out they spent close to $500,000 on this consulting team to come in and do focus groups in the schools. And the focus groups were, they only picked parents based on race. So they excluded the majority of Loudoun County from these focus groups on equity in schools. I'm like, well, that seems unconstitutional to me. So I pitched that a couple of places. And then next thing you know, you had the school department saying, proposing a conduct policy for teachers, saying that you cannot speak out against our commitment to equity either in school or outside of school. Meaning, like, if you're talking to your neighbors and you say, yeah, I don't really like what they're doing, it's not my philosophy, I believe in a colorblind meritocracy, well, then you could be subject to discipline. So we highlight that. I get a couple of stories written about that because it's a clear First Amendment violation. Then I go to the school board and I speak up about that, right? And then I wrote this op-ed on really kind of collecting all this information and putting it in the Federalist. Now, fast forward to last week, I find out from the reporter who was writing this story that I was on the list, this blacklist of people that were put on this list in this private Facebook group. And the person that created the list was asking for help, like exposing them by, mailings to their neighbors and hacking their computers, hacking their websites, which is a federal crime, right? So, I had gotten put on the list twice, once because of my quote unquote First Amendment concerns that I expressed at the school board. And I'll get to that in a second. And then the second one was for the op-ed in the Federalist. Now, what's amazing is that the person that named me for writing the op-ed in the Federalist was a neighbor. And this neighbor has, she's someone that's always on Facebook calling conservatives racist, fascist, sexist, whatever ist will do. And, I had gone back
all the stuff we're used to. Yep.
Yeah. And I really don't comment on Facebook, but at one point, she said something where it was, you people who hide behind your thin blue line flags. And I just said, look, I mean, social media is not really a great way to have these debates. People have different perspectives based on their own experiences. It's far better to have these conversations in person. Happy to talk to you, where I live. And she deletes the comment. Which says it all, right? Like you don't want to seem like
I mean, dealing with people in a reasonable way exposes their irrationality, and that's perfect.
Totally. And so then eventually she sent her husband over to talk to me. Like, she couldn't show up herself, and I had a pretty civil debate with the guy. Like, I didn't agree with a lot of the stuff he said, but there was no harsh words, no raised voices. I mean, it was a nice porch debate, having a beer, and talked for about a half hour, and that was last August, and that was the end of it. And I haven't spoken to these people since. And then I find out that they're putting me on this list. But I think what the ironic part for me is that it really motivated me. It motivated me to get out there and sort of shine a light on this. It's like, all right, you're going to come after my business. That's great, but maybe you don't know what business I'm in. Because this is only going to help me speak for all the people that you want to, pressure on your street or in your job or in your community to do what you think is right. I can go out, I can speak on it, I can bring national attention to it, and I'm going to turn the tables. And now I'm like, look, I'll keep talking on this because I think it's a fight worth having. It's not just a fight for our country's future, but when you're talking about schools, it's a fight for our kids' future. Yeah,
I just think you have to face it head on, and it is something to take seriously. These people, leftists, as I refer to them, liberals, or whatever term we want to refer to them as, they're really leftists. Obviously, they're not these classical liberals anymore.
Right.
It's not a joke. These people don't mess around anymore. That people are getting fired, for something that they said that they thought was benign, for an old tweet. There was a coach / teacher that just got fired for doing exactly what you did, questioning critical race theory, which is, man, we're not even really getting into what critical race theory is. And I guess we should, right after this, explain what that is for the audience, but it's a racist doctrine. It's neo-communist racism, and And I think we win that argument. That sounds a little maybe hyperbolic, but that's pretty much what it is. And these people don't mess around. They put you on a list, and they said, this is one of the screenshots. Someone said, does anyone know any hackers? Meaning they want to hack your website and get in there and screenshot and dox you. Then someone wrote, this is a call for volunteers to combat the anti-CRT, critical race theory, activities of these folks, the stop whatever website, they name your website and the like. Looking for folks who are interested in volunteering to organize, lead, execute, and donate. 2, gather information on you. Community mailing list, lists of folks who are in charge of the anti-CRT movement, list of local lawmakers and folks in charge of the movement. Infiltrate, create fake online profiles and join these groups to collect and communicate information. Hackers who can either shut down their websites or redirect them to pro-CRT and anti-racist informational web pages. Spread information, expose these people publicly, create online petitions, create counter mailings. These are screenshots of their plan to get you. And we know that they've gotten people before.
And Travis, what the ironic thing about all of this is? There's probably a list of criminal activity or statutes, criminal laws that they've either bumped up against or have completely crossed. But the one that is so hilarious to me is 18 USC 241. It's called Conspiracy Against Rights. It's if 2 or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having so exercised the same. So basically, people conspiring to intimidate somebody to stop them from exercising their First Amendment rights, or because they exercise their First Amendment rights. Now, 18 USC 241, that's one of the Ku Klux Klan acts.
Okay.
Okay. So they're out there in the name of, and we call them out here Chardonnay Antifa. But, the anti-racists of Loudoun County are out there violating Ku Klux Klan acts. And one person who put me on there is dumb enough to make the case by saying the reason why I should be put on a list is for First Amendment concerns.
Yeah.
I mean, can you be any dumber than that? And that's the problem, is these people are so, I'm sure there's intelligent people in their day-to-day lives, but they've become so radicalized by, the social media, the echo chamber, what big tech feeds them on a regular basis, with probably a spice of, foreign disinformation campaigns in there, that they cannot think 3 steps ahead of what they're doing. And